Good morning, everybody. This is Rudy Vanderwald from K2. Thank you very much for making the time to join us this morning to look a little bit deeper into how you would go about building business applications with K2 and Microsoft Dynamics. So what we'll do this morning is I'm going to take us through one or two slides as introduction, so we're all on the same page on what is K2. And then we'll ask Tony Stefano, who is from Fisheries Research and Development Corporation, to take us through how they utilized K2 to drive some value in their organization and to address some of the business challenges that they've had and how they integrated K2 and CRM. And then thereafter, we'll ask Ian Woodington from K2 to take us through a practical example of what a K2 CRM integrated solution could potentially look like. So let's see, what is the aim of K2? So with K2, we try and make your organization great one application at a time. And the way we do this is to build and run custom applications using forms, workflows, and reports on any device at any time, which effectively has a strong drive to increase mobility, to try and get you not only cloud ready, but also assist in the journey from where most organizations are today on-premise, moving into the cloud with things like Office 365, and then ultimately, over time, try and move applications all into the cloud. So K2 assists with that journey. We also optimize resources, like we'll see you have an investment in CRM, and you add a little bit list like K2 into the mix, and that opens a whole new world of how you can work with those investments and how you can drive value out of it. The whole try and drive from efficiency also touches on automation, so all the workflow behind it, electronic forms, and so forth. But without data, all we sit with is blank forms. Without data, you also have workflows, but you don't empower the decision makers with the right information to be able to say yes or no. So for us to integrate and to get the data onto the reports, get the data into the hands of the decision makers is vitally important. And if we do all of this right, we actually accelerate the way in which you do business today. So in a nutshell, guys, I'm going to keep it very, very short. I want to make sure that we give Tony enough time to share with us what they've done and how they've utilized K2 and integrated to CRM, and also get some time for Ian. But also, and right at the end, I would encourage you, as we go through the presentations, to make some notes. We will have a Q&A session as well. So in a nutshell, what is in the box? We have electronic forms. What you see in K2 is HTML5. So open it on any device, anywhere, so we can interact. From a workflow perspective, number of rich design experiences to model out and execute the workflows with data. The one thing that differentiates K2 from our competitors is our data integration story, where we focus on reusable components and a very rich integration layer, and ultimately not only reporting out of the traditional workflow, transactional log database to see how far, who's involved, and what did they do, but also the ability with our data integration layer to actually get you rich reports of both line of business system data and workflow data in the same report. So you can start identifying trends and bottlenecks and effectively start alleviating them. So with that said, very, very short introduction. I want to make sure we welcome Tony Stefano and give him enough time to share with us what they've done. Tony, over to you.
Good morning, everybody. Tony Stefano from FRDC. My role was to bring on or redevelop the FRDC's business management system, which comprised of an integrated solution with bespoke development, all in .NET. This solution was actually included accounting, functionality, project management, and a web interface to sort of apply for electronic funding. FRDC, we fund research on behalf of the federal government into fisheries, and they've been operating since about 1990. They've developed several systems over the past 25 years and had a heavy reliance on technology to do the task, and starting right from the start, where they didn't want to receive applications on paper and then transfer the data into their database. So they've been going electronically for years, and originally that started with sending discs out to people, and people would fill out the application on there, the discs, return them back to FRDC, and then we'd have a process of transferring that data electronically straight into the system. That evolved, and when .NET first was introduced, we went live with the web application, and we're probably the first organisation to implement .NET, and it was beta version, and we went out there with our Fishnet beta version, and that data then was transferred into what was called the Fish-based project management system. Time went on and .NET moved along, and then FRDC redeveloped that Fish-based system into a full .NET application, which had, once again, business accounting, CRM management, and the web application transfer of data. That application was very bespoke and required a lot of work to maintain itself and maintain continuity of versions, and hence any changes were becoming very, very costly. So the task I had was to sort of say, well, what can we do? How can we replace this system to keep in line with the latest technologies? So I went ahead and did all the research, and it came up with Microsoft CRM as being the best system that had CRM. We could implement project management system. We could develop it very rapidly. It's quite agile. SQL backend. So in reviewing that, we sort of had some goals, and we sort of set out to say, well, okay, and I'll run on that first slide there. We need applications where we can use them straight out of the box. We didn't want to reinvent the wheel. So out of the box, no-code solutions was our sort of agenda. In selecting all the components of our system, we needed to be responsive to change so that we didn't have to take 3 weeks to implement a change. It had to happen very quickly. We needed to maintain internal control, as well as have external skill sets that we could rely on in case one of us wasn't in the office or for whatever reason. We needed to, working out of the box was minimizing development costs and licensing costs, and we also looked at minimizing ongoing support costs. And so the task was what was going to work and provide us these solutions. We needed accounting functionality, we needed CRM functionality, we needed project management in the sense of managing all our contracts, and we needed a web interface to make it talk to our database. And reporting was another factor there. So we came up with CRM was the key factor. We've now we went to MYOB EXO, which has a SQL Server backend. So we use connectors to talk to each other there. So all of a sudden we had a system working there. How to overcome our web interface without actually designing a web application to talk to our CRM and project management system. That was the task, and we came up with K2. We investigated several other products, and K2 came up with the most cost-effective and simplicity to use type systems. So we use K2 for what we call our Fishnet. It's a web application that people can apply for funding online, and it talks immediately to our CRM. It talks through the APIs, and so the moment people enter their data, we're seeing the data transform into our system, and then we sort of integrate it with the contacts. And so that was the task. So we had CRM, we had K2 for our Fishnet application, and we had our EXO financial management package, and all systems were meeting the requirements that we could develop everything without code, everything out of the box. So it was really just a matter of configuration and running workflows and within all of that. So if we can go to the next slide, we achieved all of that. Our system was delivered on time and well within budget and responsive to change. And if I can talk about responsive to change, when we went live with K2 for Fishnet, if we were required to fix something and fine-tune, we could actually do that within minutes. Something didn't work. Jojo, one of the IT team, he would just go in and tweak it up, and it was up and running. And we really haven't had any downtime in the 18 months since it's been implemented. The other day, we implemented 3 or 4 changes, and we added a few, 2 or 3 extra data fields to the Fishnet application. So that was first put into our project management system in CRM, and then straight away it's done into K2, and it probably took the best part of 1 hour to implement several things in both systems. So that was fantastic. So the overall concept, and using K2, CRM and EXO, we delivered the project on time, in budget, and let me just say, the on-time component of it all, we were missioned with the task in November, and to go live in June, and we managed to do that in that 6 to 7 months of time. Very little brief, and we went straight in and produced it all. And the development of our CRM for project management was K2 was developed side by side, so that we implemented one module in the CRM. Our Fishnet for K2 was done within days after that, and we can monitor any errors that we were occurring, and so development went pretty well simultaneously, and they were both finished to go live on the 30th of June. And now we're sort of 18 months into the realm, and everything's running pretty smoothly, and we just fine-tune or add new things as our stakeholders or within FRDC or government demand. So we're happy with that. And go to the next slide. This is just a bit of a quick overview of our type of systems. As you can see here, we've got Fino, which is our CRM. It does project management system. So we may process a deliverable, a contractual deliverable in Fino, and it would automatically go through several policy processes with delegation and people to I policy. So the technical components could be approved by the program manager, then the financial part is approved by the accounting department and managed. They click a button and off it goes to EXO for production. When they pay the account in EXO, the creditors, it then fires back a process back into CRM and designates that the actual deliverable has been paid. There's a little bit of a step in between there. While we use K2 for Fishnet, we also use K2 as an internal portal for running processes that perhaps are a little bit too complex for CRM out of the box. And we use K2, and we're using K2's workflows or to talk directly to CRM and talk to EXO as well. So with the processing of our contractual deliverables, it first goes to our internal portal, to a little screen that's called our scheduler. And in there, all the transactions appear, and the accounts department can then look at those and approve or reject them. If they approve, off it goes to EXO. So K2, we're starting to multitask it, not just for the external portal, but internally. Fishnet, K2 for Fishnet, is, as I mentioned before, is our electronic application. Have we tried to develop this in a web application? We would be looking, I don't know, just hazarding a guess, probably around $500,000 to develop that. With K2's licensing process and the fact that you can do everything out of the box, we saved hundreds of thousands of dollars there just in doing and utilizing K2. And the other benefit, of course, came from using our internal portal. We not only can manage all our users, the fishnet users, we manage the scheduler, and there's a whole range of other processes that we can do using the power of K2's workflow. So part of out-of-the-box type structure, we decided we'd use SQL Server reporting services for all our reports, and hence we developed that in-house. SQL Server reporting service is a free product using if you're using SQL Server. So all our reports are generated through SSRS. The K2 component, where the applicant completes his application, he needs to print out his application report. That just talks immediately to SSRS, and that pops the report. When the applicant finalises his application, it sends a copy of that report and any other ancillary documents that he's added to his application, and it sends it off to our SharePoint site. We have and have had Microsoft SharePoint since about 2008 or 2007, sorry, with all our document management and all our project libraries. So K2, through its workflow, it just automatically populates the documents into our particular library, so then we can do further processing on all those documents. So through all of this, and with CRM and MYOB-XO, we use a particular connector, and through K2, we've virtually got an integrated solution which met all our things and everything out of the box. CRM, I think we've got 3 lines of JavaScript, and the beauty of going out of the box, even with K2 as well as CRM, we started in CRM 2013. Just recently, I think maybe November, we went to 2015 CRM and upgraded, and nothing missed the beat. It just went straight through beautifully, and so did K2 when and K2 kept in line with Microsoft. So that was one of the key points in sort of trying to keep everything out of the box. We weren't relying on a lot of source code that always run when you're going into the new versions of software and things like this. So yeah, our system now, we just feel we've got an integrated solution. We can actually fine-tune it. We're doing changes all the time, not just in the fishnet component, the K2 component, but in CRM. It's just so responsive to change, and that's the beauty of it. Next slide. So these are just a few screenshots of our K2. We have a user login process. This was developed, and it's pretty straightforward. Just uses the user's name, which is we've decided on using their email address and password. And as you can see on the screen there, they can sign up, they can reset the forgotten password, and all that works beautifully. Once they sign in, they come into, on the right-hand side of the screen, an application screen. It just shows, that displays the various applications that someone may have running. The 2 on screen just show a couple of unfinalized. With the K2 process and our fishnet, part of our requirements were that an applicant, a researcher, may want to collaborate on projects. So they can sort of share their application and between different people. So someone in West Australia could be making out a funding application and then wants someone in Victoria to consult on it, and he can sort of share it, and vice versa, people can share with him. Navigation was a bit of a dilemma with Microsoft going to all different ways of navigating screens and all that type of thing. We had a sort of a regimented way where we wanted to guide people in steps, so we chose to go for a tabular type navigation. So on this particular screen, you can see there's several tabs there, and it really only takes the user to click on the various tabs. The first tab there, they would click on and say, well, they can start a new application. The second tab we called My Details, which is a direct link through the CRM Live, so they can retrieve their own personal details and change them and edit them, change phone numbers, email addresses, whatever they like. Once they hit save, it's running live into our CRM. And for those principal investigators or the applicant who's making application, he may have 4 or 5 or 6 or 1 project that's been approved and active. So he can go into My Projects tab and he can see how his deliverables are progressing, whether any are overdue, when they've been processed and when they've been paid. And that we're going to develop a bit further, where these applicants can actually lodge all their deliverables online using K2 workflows and things like that. So we haven't had time to develop that up yet, but we will slowly work towards that. You'll notice a little I button we have at the top right hand screen there. I've just highlighted that. We've put in a little help file, so that's all in the K2 database, and it just lists all the various topics, so people can click the I button and go down and do all that type of thing. All our forms and the sections in each form, you can see on some of these where it says My Application, and then you've got some red writing and a few dot points. We just put in tips, and that's once again in the K2 database, and we just sort of did all that. So it gives you a little bit more flexibility about instructing people how to do things. Now the next slide. Here we go. So we're inside FishNet, and this slide on the left, you can see we've got multiple tabs going across the top, and that's just to direct our applicants to what stages they should be filling information in. The first screen just pops up with all the applicant details, start date and end date. The bottom part of that screen, which is project contacts, you can see we've got instructional text there, and they select live from CRM any contacts that we've flagged as project-related contacts. So our database might have 10,000 contacts in it, but there's only 3,000 that may be related to project research. So they just select from here and they can choose them and add new ones. If they add new ones, they go live into CRM, and we receive a message that on our dashboard saying, well, these contacts require validation, and then we can just sort of go through and validate and look at these contacts. If they already exist, we can merge them all out of the box from CRM. On the right screen, this is just a little bit about navigation and form size. As part of our application, I think we've got about 15 text fields, large text fields that the applicant has to fill out, like need and methods and various components. And the challenge was, well, how do you show that? We don't want one continuous form that has to scroll. So where I've highlighted on the little with the little yellow markers, the little diamond there, if the applicant clicks on one of those, it'll expand the text box. So it's a bit of a show and hide your text boxes, and this way it sort of guides them through the process, and there's not a lot of scrolling to sort of do. There's save buttons on everywhere you go. If they move to a tab, we've implemented so that the record is saved, so they don't have to go backwards and forwards and oh, I forgot to save that. It's saved automatically. Next slide. So over here, the screen on the left is our finalisation screen, and providing supporting documents. So within K2, if they want to upload any attachments, any ancillary documents, it could be PDFs, it could be a whole range of files. They just add them in there, upload it, and you can see the lower part of the screen, there's already uploaded supported documents. These automatically go into SharePoint, and which is fantastic. And then you can see preview application. They click on the preview application, and it delivers the SQL Server reporting service report. And incidentally, using SQL Service reporting services, one of the requisites that we sort of went to was keeping it simple and not trying to produce these super duper fancy reports, and so that if you need to change them, we could change them quickly. And having done all that, our report actually looked better than the bespoke applications that we had, and use third-party reporting tools. So that's good. They just click finalise the project or finalise the check, and it will go through and check all the various areas, making sure they're all complete. And throughout the application, there's lots of business rules applied. You know, if they try to finalise the application and the deliverable due date is outside the project start or end date, they get a message. So we have utilising K2's rule functionality has been fantastic and straightforward. So we've applied rules throughout the whole system. On the right-hand side of the screen, and I'm going on a little bit, but this is our CRM, and our project screen is just one long form with all the relevant data about the projects. And in this particular case, you'll see at the top of that screen is the project-related data. Then you'll see a list of project deliverables, which is a one-to-many relationship, just showing in a grid form there. And down the lower part of the screen, there's all the other components. And once again, it's clicking on any one of those titles expands the screen. Rather than have one big form fully expanded, it's show and hide. If we looked at CRM and what's the worst part of CRM from a development point of view and a user point of view, you can see that grid down there for the deliverables. The only thing Microsoft don't provide is editable grids and totals for grids. So it's very difficult to, you just can't do that unless you bought a third-party application, and then you have the problem of moving forward. If they're not in line with Microsoft's releases, then you're always behind the eight ball and always finding difficulty. Next screen. I mentioned earlier that we also use K2 as an internal portal and to conduct certain functions, and this is the K2 internal portal. And an issue we have with our deliverables, because of slippage, the project commencement date may have been the 1st of June, but by the time everything's approved and contract signed, 6 months could have slipped by, and we could have 15 projects like that with, you know, 5 or 6 deliverables for each project. So there's no easy way in CRM to do that without writing code. So we're using K2 and K2's business rules, and it's pretty straightforward here. They can actually advance a due date, and we have forecast dates as well, by 1 day or 365 days, and it goes through and does all that. So that's out of the box, no code. So we've automated CRM and writing code, which is fantastic. We've got a Fishnet user tab there to manage the users and track the users that have registered through Fishnet. We've just provided the portal in for us to have a look at and manage those sorts of things. Our Fishnet users are also in CRM, so that everything goes into CRM. And then we've got the EXO Scheduler tab, which is that functionality that from CRM, when we process a deliverable, it's gone through all the checking processes. It sends an email to the accounts department to say, hey, here's a deliverable for $50,000 payable to X. It's been technically approved by Y. The delegate who's got certain delegation rights has checked it and everything's okay, and it goes to the scheduler, and then the accounts department can match the records in the scheduler to their email and say, yep, that one's okay, and send it on to EXO. And in doing that, it writes back to CRM immediately, updating a date, and it goes into EXO. And straightforward. So I think utilising K2 has given us a lot of opportunity to do all the things that we can't do in CRM. Further to this, one of the next tasks is, and we're moving to the cloud, so everything's going to be pretty right with K2 and CRM, but we're also redoing a lot of our websites, and the FRDC are releasing their new Australian Fisheries Stock Status Report. That's got to be done by early October, and the information's all been collated now, but in the past that's been pretty much a static website in SharePoint. So now we're actually going to go live and make all that sort of dynamic, and instead of sort of we putting all the data in, we're passing that on to the jurisdictions who control the data. So we're going to use K2 as an interface to the new database that we've got, and they'll enter all the stock status information there. So once again, we'll be able to use K2 instead of writing a .NET web interface for all of that. And the purpose of that obviously is dollars, but at the same time, it gives us the responsiveness to change, so that if we want to change something, we can. Next slide, and I think that sort of wraps it up. K2, I'll just summarise here, provided our web interface for our funding applications, and hence over a period of 25 years, FRDC have actually improved from where they started. As I say, once upon a time we used to send out disks, then we went to .NET solution, and it was a separate database that had to be synchronized manually into their project management system. So now we're running live from K2's Fishnet directly into our CRM. Rapid application. We can't fault both systems for that. Provided no-code solution all out of the box. As I say, I think we've only got in CRM 3 lines of JavaScript. K2 writes to CRM via the APIs, and we send stuff to backwards and forwards. But when we retrieve information from this CRM, we find that it's probably faster using direct SQL rather than grabbing information through the APIs. So we focused on trying to keep the system smooth and fast. Other functionalities, as I mentioned, you saw our internal portal, and we're developing other things with our stock status report and enabling jurisdictions to sort of enter the data live rather than them handing us the data, and then we've got to start putting it in ourselves. The learning curve for K2, I didn't actually do all the configuring of K2. Jojo, part of our team, he spent, I think I was with them both, K2 as well. We spent 4 days looking at it and learning, a bit of training, and there we were building within a week later. So pretty good return on investment. Like I said, if we were using .NET to produce a web application for Fishnet, we would have been spending a lot of money, and we probably saved, $400,000 or $500,000 there. Our internal portal, once again, we're maximising the benefit. Using the K2 for future development just maximises that return on investment. The overall picture and all the components that make up our integrated solution, and with XO, CRM, and K2, and SQL Server reporting services, and we already had our SharePoint document management system, and as I say, that's been running for a long time, and they all talk. I know of other organisations that have been looking at about $2 million, maybe $2.5 million to produce a system like this, and still haven't been able to achieve it in any sort of time. We've managed to do all this in a period of 7 months, and our systems haven't finished yet, but with the FRDC and the type of systems they have, the type of stakeholders they're with, and with government, nothing's ever set for more than a short period of time. So it's very dynamic, and so we're always changing and always developing new things and new functionality. So it'll never be finished. And I've been involved with the FRDC for on and off for the past 25 years, and nothing is ever static. So our systems are always live, always changing, and yeah. So I think at the moment, well, getting back to the $2 million spend that I mentioned on the whole system, we delivered the FRDC this system for probably 2 people working flat out for 7 months. K2, CRM licensing, I would say $500,000. So the savings have been enormous by just working with out of the box. And K2. Next. And I think I'm done.
Fantastic.
So hopefully it's been informative.
Was well done and a very thorough presentation. I appreciate that. Guys, so with that said, I'm going to hand over to Ian Worthington, technical specialist at K2, to take us through a bit of a drive of what a demo like K2 would look like and what it will look like in real life. Over to you, Ian.
Thanks, Tony and Rudy. That was awesome. I love seeing customer success stories, and I think what you've seen there is a fantastic use of K2 to integrate multiple systems relatively easily. And what I'm going to show you sort of hinges off the back of what Tony's spoken about. Really, what I'm going to show today is really just, how do you do that integration? How easy is it, or how hard is it? So what you see, what I'm going to start with is a mock K2 website. So the scenario I've built is really a situation where you might have an external user who wants to request something. So they might go onto your website, log in as a customer, and then request some support or licenses or services or something like that. So this is a mock K2 site, as I said. So yeah, if you go to the K2 website, you won't see any of this, purely for the demo purposes. But what you see here is a contact us form. So this could be a contact us form. It could be any sort of input from a customer that I want to capture and I want to feed back to CRM. Okay, so firstly, what I do in this K2 Smart Form is I actually capture the username, because this customer is logged into this website essentially. Then I use that customer name to look up their company in CRM. So I pull back some information from CRM. I'm also pulling back, email down the bottom here, and also a phone number as well. But also I'm pulling back a list of subjects for this drop-down list. So this is an example of K2 using live CRM data. It's not cached or anything like that. It's directly calling CRM, and I can show you if we just jump into CRM and have a look at the subjects and management. We go into the subject section. You can see I've just created a list of subjects there, licensing, products, support, and services. And so really I've configured this drop down to consume those from CRM, and I'll show you in a minute how I've done that as well. So in this case, in this fictitious scenario, this person's putting in a support request, and it's something like, please help with my forms. Keep it simple. Okay, what I've also done is you saw that I pulled back the phone and email. And what I've also done is allow the user to update their phone number here, for example. So if I go 123 at the end, when I go to submit that, I've also put in a rule in a K2 Smart Form. All this is without code, just straight out of the box sort of K2 functionality. And it says you have updated your phone number. So I'm doing a comparison between the phone number that I loaded against the number that is actually in the CRM system, and saying, you know what, you've changed it. do you want to save it or do you not? If I say cancel, obviously it won't. If I say okay, it's actually going to push that 123 phone number back into CRM. You also see that I've returned a case number. Okay, so what I've actually done is not only pushed the phone number back to CRM and updated CRM, but I've also created a case. And I'll show you how I've done that in a minute too. Let's go have a look at that, that contact. So there should be contact in Worthington. And then I can see my 123 phone number has updated in CRM. So very, very simple. You also see, please help with smart forms, a post. So CRM's done that for me when I created a case. So that's a nice feature as well. And you'll see in my recent cases, I've got please help with smart forms down the bottom there. Okay. That number there, 5C9, should match what the user's got. So again, like I say in the message here, this could be a useful piece of information for the end user if they ever want to, talk to K2 around this particular case. Okay, so let's go in and have a look at this this case. Please help with smart forms. This is all standard CRM sort of stuff. If I scroll down, I've included a section here called K2 Actions, and this is the only customization I've really done in CRM. What I've done is really just embed a very, very quick little iframe there, and I've put a couple of buttons. So the purpose of this is let's pretend that I'm going in here and I'm actioning this case. I'm a case worker. And I scroll down and I could have potentially a list of K2 actions or K2 workflows, business processes that have been automated and workflows behind them. And for this particular case, I might have one that's reissue a replacement product. So I'm authorized to kick off that process. What I can do here is click reissue replacement product. You'll see I open up a view flow. So this is a K2 view flow, again, just in this iframe. And you'll see in a minute that the workflow will actually start and this view flow will be updated. The theory being, this is an external process, for example, or it can involve external people. In this case, I'm running a workflow to actually approve the replacement of that particular product. Maybe it has to go through an approval process, and actually I can drill into this this view flow to see who the participants are on that particular activity. So all of a sudden, I'm seeing a process that's outside CRM, started within CRM, but actually flowing outside CRM, and I can see it all in this particular case, not having to know anything about K2. My skills are in CRM, theoretically, and I'm working in CRM. So why should I have to know about another system in order to kick off these workflows and look at these workflows? Okay, so what I've done there is I could include, I suppose, another view for tasks. In this case, I'm just going to jump straight into our immersion environment or experience. It's if you haven't seen the immersion experience, it's basically a demo environment. You're all welcome to join and log in and look at some of the processes and applications that we've created. I use it also for demos, obviously, and you can see there that I've got a task list on the right-hand side here, and with my 5C9 task. So what I'm going to do is just approve that, and then we'll jump back to the CRM system, and we'll see that flow on from there. So it's been approved, we've shipped a replacement, and then potentially the workflow can actually close off this particular case. So it's a handy piece of functionality, not hard at all to put into this particular form. In fact, if I just go into edit the form here, it's like putting any iframe into CRM. Let's scroll down here. Here's my iframe. I've just ticked the pass record object type code and unique identifiers parameters, okay, because I want CRM to pass through the case number to K2. So then I can look up the case number and do whatever I want after I've got the case number, okay? So CRM will pass that through to that particular iframe. K2 will capture that ID, and that's how I'm starting up the correct view flow and things like that. So you can get quite complex, and it's very clean integration between CRM and K2. Another thing I wanted to show you is I'll just jump back to the contacts here for myself. I just wanted to show you in here In the note section, I'm talking to the note object in CRM as well. So remember, I updated my phone number. At the same time as updating my phone number, I also create a note on this particular contact account. So regardless of the object in CRM, it's very easy to interact with them from K2, and K2 provides a lot of that stuff straight out of the box. Another sort of business process that I just wanted to show you, or another sort of integration point that's interesting, is I've customized the account form, and down the right-hand side here, I've actually included travel expenses. So we already had a process in the immersion experience for travel. So it's a travel form, and you can look up, it talks to an external web service and pulls back the pricing information for flights and things like that. And you can book or request travel through that demo. So what I've done is actually taken or created a little list view of the travel expenses, embedded that into CRM. And why I like this is, you know, it's funny. I didn't even plan this with Tony, but Tony mentioned that one of the pain points is that you don't have editable lists or sub grids in CRM. But just by easily embedding a little K2 smart form in there, I can actually get some totals and things like that. K2 also has editable lists as well. So, potentially you could actually use K2 to get around some limitations of CRM, but I see it more as not as getting around limitations. I think it's more about enriching the CRM environment for a CRM user. For example, I've got a book travel button. I'm going to click on that button, and I don't even need to know where the booking system is. It's just going to take me to that travel booking system and load it up. In this travel booking system, again, we're using some CRM information here, but we're also hooking into Office 365 and all sorts of stuff. And like I said, a travel website to get the pricing information. But what I can actually do is go in here. You can see it pulling back CRM information. So for example, my Slade Rock and Gravel company. And I've also included a little eye. Maybe I'm filling out this form and I forget where Slade Rock and Gravel company is. Am I going to New South Wales or Victoria, or what am I doing? So show me the details in line. Give me all the information that I need in order to make the decision and make the right booking at the time of the booking. So I've looked it up. It's New South Wales, but then I might want to just make a phone call to one of the guys at the Slade Rock and Gravel company. There I can pull up a list of the contacts that I actually have for that company, all coming from CRM. And you can see the changed phone number there as well. So that's pretty handy as well. From there, I just wanted to jump into a Designer, a K2 Designer, and show you exactly sort of how did I make that magic happen. Well, it's pretty simple. What I'm going to do is go into the Contact Us view or form that I showed you on the mock website. Okay, so we just jump back for a second. I'll open it up again, and I'll show you customer name, company name, type of request, and things like that. Let's have a look at this type of request. Okay, so we've got a drop down. We want to pull some information from CRM. How do we make that happen? Okay, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to drop a text box for the sake of demonstration on the page. Actually, I can just take one of these, for example. But what I'm going to do is turn that into a drop down list. Okay, now because it's a drop down list, it has some certain properties down the right-hand side here in the K2 Designer. Some of those properties is a data source. Okay, so we want to configure a data source. Now I can go in here. The first option I can select is a static list of values, and I can start to fill out a static list of values. But the problem with that, as we all know, is the data is then configured on the form, and if there's any changes to this drop down in the future, the K2 guys just got to go in there and actually got to change this particular drop down, which is not ideal. It's better to use a single source of truth, and we want to pull that information from CRM. So what I have to do is configure a smart object as the data source. Now, a smart object, for the purpose of this demonstration, is a very, very simple concept. It's just a wrapper around any data source. Okay, it could be a SharePoint list, it could be a SharePoint library, it could be a CRM entity, it could be anything. So the point of the smart object is when I'm designing my form, I don't really care what SharePoint server it's coming from, or what the connection strings are to a database. All that's configured for me, and all I have to do is drill into my my list of smart objects, in this case for CRM, and just configure configure the smart object for, I'm just going to dig into this one here. In this case, we're going to pull back the subjects, okay? So I scroll down and actually have a look at some of these. This is pretty much straight out of the box. We've got access to accounts, addresses, everything in CRM is available here. I can create notes. You can see case there. I can create a case or delete a case or update a case, discounts, email. I can do anything I want, really. So all I have to do is scroll down to subject, okay? And for this particular drop-down, I want to get a list of all the subjects, okay, and display all the subjects. I can filter that if I want to, and I can get carried away if I want to. The value I'm going to store in the text box, in the drop-down box, is I'm going to store the title. I can store a GUID or something like that if I want to use the GUID elsewhere. But this is just a simple demo. I can also configure what I want to show to the end user. So I could show the title, but I could also put a comma and put in, the version, anything I want. So I can build up that drop-down to look however I want. But when I save it back, I can store, a different value if I want. And it's as simple as that. From there, the drop-down is configured to talk to that smart object. And it's very, very similar with, on the submit button. Let's have a quick look at the rules. For the submit button, when the submit is clicked, it might look daunting at first, but it's really not. If an advanced condition is true, so I'm doing a test to see whether my phone number has changed. Okay, if my phone number has changed, then get confirmation from the user in a dialog with save user details with a heading that you have updated your phone number. Do you want to save your changes for next time? So if they say okay, it's going to continue along these rules. Then on CRM contact summary smart object, so we're talking to the CRM contact smart object, do an update. So update, if I have a look at this smart object, I'm just updating their mobile phone number from the text box from our form. So it's as easy as that to get integration from K2 talking to CRM, and I've shown you also how you can see in CRM and embed K2 smart forms and pass data to those iframes and really enrich the process for CRM users as well. I know it's a short demo, but if you want to see anything more in depth, get in contact with us, and we're more than happy to delve into certain areas that you might be interested in. That's it from me. Back to you, Rudy.
Fantastic, Ian. Thank you very much. So let's just screen back here. So what we want to do now is just go through some of the questions that have been posted. So the first one from Kristen.
No, it's just.
I say again, from Trust, is the implementation experience. What would you say the K2 uptake within FRDC in terms of business users, I think, versus technical? Tony, if you can maybe take that question.
All right. So from the user perspective of using the forms, correct me if I'm wrong, that's what you're asking, not so much developing the forms, but from actually using the forms. There's been no problem user acceptance. And I think any form, it's really a matter of how you present it. And as long as it follows a logical pattern of tabbing through and navigating a particular screen, yeah, we haven't had any problems there. Internally, it's pretty straightforward, and generally what happens, Jojo may do his first design on the form, and then I will play with it before it even gets to the user, so that we've always got those two eyes following through to saying, yeah, well, that doesn't navigate properly, and you go to box 1, and then you hit the tab key and it jumps down to box 42. So as long as you set everything up right so it logically follows the flow, shouldn't be a problem. Well, you haven't had a problem anyway. The response out in the fishnet world, where we had our previous .NET application, and we had some good responses back, and no one seemed to fudge, and perhaps they were all used to similar because it was similar, the data they were putting in is the same as they did 2 years ago or last year. But yeah, no one sort of said anything about the form difficulty, and it was just difficult to follow. So I hope that answered the question.
Okay. Great stuff. Thanks, Tony. There was another question, also from Trust, around the key business return of investment areas in the gain with K2, the K2 investment. I think you've touched on the return of investment and kind of the total cost of ownership. Trust, this might be a question that you've asked before Tony addressed it at the end of his presentation. So Trust, if you have additional questions, please don't hesitate to follow it through, and happy to answer them. The next one is the FRDC currently maintaining K2 in-house or engaging with external vendors? That's another one for you, Tony.
Yep, we maintain it in-house, but we use your mob to provide us the backup that we need. So yeah, we look after it in-house, and that was one of our requisites. That way we can be more responsive to change, and we don't have to go through a whole lot of processing. And I guess that's a little bit of return on investment as well. If we didn't look after it in-house, we would still be here as IT people, because then you'd have to consult internally what's the change you wanted, prepare a brief, hand it to the external provider. They go through and assess it. There are business architects, then come back to you. Is this what you want? And then yes, and then it goes through a build phase and then to a UAT phase. 6 weeks later, you get a little job done. So yeah, we maintain it in-house, and that also guarantees that return on investment. But if our expertise level is not where we should be, that in our skill set, then we go out to source code for K2 or other people who may do K2 development. But at this stage, we haven't had any need to go to anyone but source code.
Great stuff, Tony. Thank you for that. The next question we have is, can I get a copy or a link to the immersion experience? And can I get a copy of the demonstration after the webinar? Guys, what you'll see on the screen right there is we will have a full recording of this webinar, but right at the bottom, there is a link to the K2 immersion experience. Okay, so you can get access to that, and not only to the process that you've seen today, but there is a number of other processes that you can actually participate into as well. The very important thing to note there is there will also be the ability for you to enroll other people in your organization. So if you want to go to a colleague or somebody else in the organization and show them what you've seen today, feel free to take the immersion experience, enroll them, and you can actually role play and send processes for approval to them backwards and forwards as if this runs in your organization. You can even upload your own company logo, so it's going to be customized to your environment. And then the next one, just a clarification from Trust on his question. Question was about the experience updating the forms and smart objects. Do the business users update the forms, rules, workflows, or are they done by a technical team in a development environment then deployed to production? Tony, do you want to take that one for us, please?
Yes. Now, our users do not do any updating of any forms, and the same in whether it's CRM as well as our EXO system. That's left to our 2 IT people. We do that, and we always do it in a test environment, production environment first. Sorry, a test environment, a development environment, and then go to production. So yeah, we try to avoid anything going live, but no other users have access to that.
Absolutely.
It's too dangerous.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. Thanks, Tony. So just to elaborate on that question, what we've seen in the event that people want to allow their business users to actually maintain information on forms and so forth is they create smart objects that then look at things like maybe a SharePoint list. Then the business users can maintain that list and the information that's in the drop-downs. that actually happens on the form, but we don't necessarily give them access to start interacting with back-end systems. Although they could potentially do that, there is questions and concern and considerations around giving them access to that, and also from our experience to actually build and make changes into production. We would recommend, even if it's simple, go through your testing phase and your development and get it through into production with the K2 packaging deployment tooling, making sure everything is good. So I think, Tony, thank you very, very much for that, and for sharing with us what you have done at the FRDC. Ian, for the quick demo. I think it was quick but very effective. And again, for anybody on the call, if there's any additional questions or you would like additional information, please don't hesitate. Send us your information. Go onto the immersion experience, enroll, and let us know, and we'll reach out to you and help you with whatever you might need. With that said, guys, that's the end of the webinar for today. Thank you very, very much for your participation. And yeah, look out for future coming webinars from K2.